Good morning, good afternoon.
Hi, Bob.
Hello, everybody. This is Joe's.
Hey.
I see somebody's already started the recording.
Oh, really? Yeah, I see that as well.
Yeah,
Over
I don't know how that happened because I didn't start it. I just got on, so.
We're not always gonna. I mean, it's good to do today, but I guess in the future we're not always gonna record and manage the recordings. I guess.
Well, it's up to us, right? If we want to do that. It definitely helps for people who miss the meeting to catch up. But we do have the the notes that we'll be taking. And I'm going to again do notes today, so I'll let you guys drive the agenda.
So I just updated the wiki with a link to the technical charter. Just the agenda part.
Yep. And I am going to I'm going to share just the agenda page here. Or do you want to share? Do you want to share the agenda, Jonas, or the charter? Sorry.
Let me see.
I mean, we did ask folks to review that over the last week, and we sent the link, right?
Yeah, if there is a section that somebody brings up that they feel they have an issue with, we can share, right? It's not that we're going to read the whole thing now, I'm thinking.
Right.
Do we want to make changes to our names again so we know where we work?
Yeah. Most everyone's got their company name on there. Martin does not, and Alex does not.
Yeah.
Let me get the.
Sorry, I was speaking on mute. Maybe we should ask if there are any points within the technical charter that warrant discussion. And if there aren't any, then maybe we can take a vote.
I think that would be good. I don't know if folks have. Did you say you put the link in the? By the way, I put in the chat the link to the agenda page, folks, so you can see. And let me go back to that. Did you add the link to it, Jonas? Is that what you said? You did.
Yeah, to the technical charter. You might need to refresh. I think
I'll reload the page.
Yeah.
There you go.
Do the folks on the call feel like we've had adequate time to review the charter? Are there any concerns, issues, anything? If there are, we can reopen the document and consider changes. If not, then we can maybe do a vote. And do we have quorum, Bob?
Well, we haven't formed TSC officially yet, so.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, we really haven't, but.
So.
And how do we define quorum? That's also.
That's in the technical charter, actually.
Yeah.
Simple majority.
It's called a majority.
Yeah.
So which order do we do things in? Do we want to form the TSC first and then ratify, or,
I think so.
Okay.
So. Otherwise a vote would be meaningless, right?
Yes. Yeah. So.
Right. So far, I'm just going to, can folks see my screen?
Yeah, can you pull up? Yeah, you have that. Okay, very good.
Yeah.
Very good.
So far we have 5 companies who have put forth a TSC representative. And I think all of these folks are here today. All companies are represented today. And so this is the size of our current TSC. We could still expand it as new members, new participants get involved. We haven't really set a limit on our TSC just yet in terms of number of companies. But with this in place, I mean, we have some minimally viable size, and this would mean that with a simple majority, we could ratify, with a vote of 3 companies, we could ratify any decision that we wanted to. I would say.
Yep, I agree.
Mm-hmm.
So it's 6 minutes past. Do we think a new company will jump in and join right now? Otherwise, I think we can move ahead with.
I don't think that we, let's just take a quick look here on the participants. I don't believe that we have any other companies present. But I could be wrong. We have AMI, we have Tetra Every.
Yeah.
Oh, we have GEM. Yeah, we have HP. Yep. No, we don't have any other companies who are participating today who might be interested in putting their name forward officially. So this is our TSC today.
Yeah, just to make it clear, and you did it before, Bob, but so this doesn't mean that we will always be these 5 companies. We will hopefully now initially see if we can attract more companies to join. But at least if we form TSC with these 5, I think we can move ahead and do the other stuff.
Yeah, and I think the assumption is that everything is a living thing, right? Even, as new members join the TSC, we just need to watch and make sure that, we don't grow the TSC too large. So we'll need to cap it at some point. But for now, we can leave it open. Even if we ratify the documents today, if there's really heartburn over some section down the line, we can always consider changes. And that happens on a regular basis in different open source communities as well.
Right, and there's different points in the LFN project lifecycle, in terms of unfunded project and sandbox and incubation and full TAC project, where we have opportunities to make some changes at those times. Would you agree with that, Jim? I say Jim Baker is on.
Yep.
He might be on mute.
Or not paying attention.
Yeah, but I believe that is the case. Yeah.
Okay. I am paying attention, and I was on mute. Yes, as you make those transitions, you'll have other chances. Now, also, if you choose to go for a funded method, that at that point you can change your charter at any time. So, don't get overly hung up on making stuff cast in stone.
Right. Yeah, that's really just our boilerplate, starting point for where we are right now.
Exactly.
So we can maybe cast a vote on chat, +1, -1, or 0 to abstain.
Yeah, that's what I would recommend. We'd like to take I'd like to ask participants, TSC members, to vote in the chat on ratifying the technical charter.
So we have, it's okay. So just to conclude for whoever's taking notes, right? We have now formed a TSC, and TSC consists of AMI, HP, Intel, Tetra Every, and Kubernetes today.
Yes.
Yep. Okay.
So that list that you see on your screen, Jonas, that is meant to basically describe the TSC.
Understood, but I think we should take notes on this stuff.
Yeah. I'm doing that. I'm actually getting to that. I'm trying to get back to my I want to get back to the meetings page.
Oh yeah.
And I will start writing down these notes. So under here. So you guys go ahead, and I'm going to I can't speak and scribe at the same time. I'm not that talented. All
So
right.
would the primary members of the TSC cast the vote then? And if we do it with, your name or your company, I guess it's just the company that we need. And if we use +1 to in favor of keeping the charter the way it is, -1 against, 0 to abstain.
Yeah, I'm just okay. Yeah, I think so. So this is for the topic of ratifying the technical charter. So let's vote on that now then. So I do the plus. So we have enough to.
Yes.
All five.
Yep.
Bob, if we can capture the chat in a file, there's a button there to do that. Then at the end of the meeting, we should, please do that if you can.
Yes, Jim did that the last time.
Okay, great.
And yeah,
So when you stop the meeting, you should have a save chat window pop up, and then you can just copy and paste right from there and embed it
Oh,
into your
awesome.
notes.
oh, okay. Okay. All right. So that I can either do it manually before I close the meeting, or it'll come up as an option when I go to close the meeting.
That is correct.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, there's also another. Hi, this is Lewis. There's also another way. There's towards the bottom right. There's three dots, and it says more. If you hover over it, and then you can do save chat.
Yes.
And so that's a manual way. Yeah.
Okay. So the next topic was the pull request approval process. So I think we do votes like this in the future then, right? A lot
Yes.
of projects.
Yes.
Yeah, very good.
And do be advised that private chats to the host will also be saved in that file. So,
But not private chats between me and Alex, for instance.
only to the host. Right.
Okay, cool.
You want to say something to me, Jonas?
He seemed really nervous. I don't know, man.
Oh, we have Slack as well, so.
Oh, yes, that's right. We have lots of ways of talking.
On the
All
approval
right.
process, I know you're taking notes, Bob. So perhaps should I share that one, or what do you want to do?
Well, if you're leading the charge, go ahead and do that, right? We don't need to look at the minutes. We can always look at them later and ratify them. Or,
See. Where is the bloody? Yep, I'm just.
share screen, and under share screen, you can share files or browser windows or whatever.
Yeah, I'm going to stop sharing and let you share there while I finish. Keep going on my notes here.
Yeah. Okay. My meeting had minimized here somehow, so that's why I didn't see it. Okay. Share screen, desktop 1. All right. So you will probably then let me know if you can see the chat window here, for instance.
Grayed out?
Oh, is it grayed out?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. It's grayed out.
Yeah, you're not sharing your whole screen. You might be just sharing the.
Yeah, so I thought I did. Desktop 1, right? That's my whole screen right there.
I think that Zoom may actually gray out the chat box when you bring it up.
Okay. Share.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So if I remove, that's a smart thing to do, I guess, because I could have, So can you see my browser now with
Yes.
Okay, cool. So then now we're talking about the review process. So here there are two. This is just a proposal. So here is we should just agree, right? But this is important that we get this agreed upon because that will allow us to contribute our code. So we think we are working from Git issues because we don't really have Jira or anything at this point in time. Once we get funded, we might move to a Jira-based thing or whatever. So I guess before people start doing work, we will create Git issues. Is my thinking, and I'm not sure we we start at that point here. We just assume that there is an issue. But do you guys agree that we will create, at least for the bigger features, there will be a Git issue, and also for bugs, obviously. And before somebody starts working on it, they will basically grab the issue, I'm thinking. Any thoughts on that?
What I would recommend maybe is a two-step kind of process, right? I think it would be good to, if you want to propose a big project, maybe have a project one-pager created on the wiki, where you can sort of state the rationale for it, the reason, you know, the business motivation, or whatever else you think is appropriate to explain what the project is. Maybe talk about some basic use cases you're going after, things like that, just kind of,
Yeah.
and then we can certainly track the individual, you know,
No.
stories and epics and as.
Yeah. So just to Alex, this process that I'm talking about now is unfortunately not addressing creation of a new project, and there we need to do some work. So I'm just talking about, okay, we're going to upload some code, and that's going to be, I think, one repository, and we can refer to that as a project. So assuming that is already in, and now we want to, let's say, so we have all these services in there and whatever, and all of a sudden I wake up one morning and think, oh, wouldn't it be great to have the telemetry service from Redfish also in this project?
Mm-hmm.
So I will go in and I will create a Git story for it.
Yes.
Sorry, Git issue. I'm from more of an agile background, so user stories is driving everything. But so I create a Git issue, and I think there we need to figure out, Alex. If the Git issue is big enough, like we want a new service, I think at one point that should be escalated to TSC to take a decision on if that should be sandboxed or if that's something that we can just allow in directly. And any thoughts around that?
Well, you know, I agree that any change to an existing, the easiest thing to do is to use Git issues to track changes to existing code bases, right? And I presume that there may be eventually multiple GitHub repos that we'll pull from. So, so if we want to do something, sure, I don't see a problem with that. I think if it's a big, huge thing, like a brand new service or some fundamental change that impacts everything inside that code tree, then I would argue we're back to kind of creating something new. It's not really, you know, it's not a small change. It's a new activity, and maybe that needs to be discussed, as you said. But for that, I would go back and say, create a one-pager, explain the impact.
Yeah, I agree.
Sebastian here. I would propose that we then do a proposal. So if there are bigger changes,
Yes.
either here in Wiki or having a dedicated repository where you submit your proposal, like what's the benefit, what you want to do, and with a high level detail how you want to implement this, so that others can review this, or like that you create a PR with a markdown file that you can review this, and when it's merged, then the person knows, okay, it's accepted, and then we can discuss also potentially does it need approval from the TOC in this process, or?
But there are a couple of problems with that, right? First out, I think we don't have a system to track those proposals. So we could either have a separate page for it and just keep adding proposals in Confluence, or we can use the Git issues to create an issue. And I think there are tools there to have different type of issues, and we could have perhaps a proposal type then and track it there. Just to reuse a system that already exists, right?
Well, so I agree with Sebastian. We need to create that's kind of what I was proposing with one pagers, right? But I would keep them, you know, we've had pretty good luck keeping project proposals and approved and rejected projects on the wiki because newcomers can immediately see what's going on, right? If somebody wants to join down the line or wants to contribute, we can simply point them at the wiki, and that would give them all the information they need. I agree that eventually everything boils down to a Git issue, but to
we're
start
not
with,
talking about a project proposal now. A project proposal would will likely create a new repository, and that new repository will have its own issues. See,
Yeah.
what I'm talking about is the adding a feature to an existing project and how we manage it, because there's going to be a small feature coming in, and everyone will say, yeah, it's fine, and we need to discuss who's approving the merge as well. We get to that, but if there is a maintainer or two that approves the merge, they might pick up one pull request and they think, holy crap, this is huge. This is, you are proposing a 7,000 line code change with a brand new service. We will need to look at that for a while, and perhaps even TSC needs to take a look at it, right?
but you're kind of reacting to something that's been done already, which is more complicated to deal with than being proactive and saying, hey, we're going to make some changes. Here's why. Here's the impact. Here's the high level implementation idea of what that might look like. What do you guys think? And for large changes, that would be an appropriate way, I think, to introduce them, as opposed to building something and then relying on the committers or on the approvers to gate, you know, stuff the right way.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to surprise, you know, everybody who also is making changes in parallel. So doing this and surfacing it in the TSC would be good. If we're talking about small changes that are well contained and have no impact on anybody else, I agree there's no need to go crazy and create a heavyweight process. So maybe the thing to do is to just, you know, when we talk about all this, maybe we should say up front that the rules of the game are that if you're creating something brand new, or if you're making a significant change to an existing GitHub repo, then you should follow the proposal route, right? But if you make a small change, then you can simply, you know, try to merge your changes and see what happens.
No, you can't try to merge your changes. That's what we need to get through. So I'm going to take this down a level. Assume we have a Git issue. The developer will pick up the Git issue, and he has two options. And I'm in favor of the first one, but I'll be happy to hear your viewpoints. I think that the developer will create a feature branch that would sort of reflect that Git issue, perhaps by referring to it in the ID or whatever, but he would have this feature branch open. He will do his work, and we are basically on 3, where once he's done with his work, he will raise a pull request against the feature branch, asking for us to pull it into the development branch. And when he raised that pull request, that will trigger CI/CD as far as we will have a build, we will run unit case tests, and if anything fails, the pull request will obviously be rejected. But if it succeeds, then we will have 2 maintainers that needs to approve the pull request before it gets merged, and that would be maintainers that, I mean, I think we should try to spread it out across companies, to be honest, but they need to have some footing in the code. They need to understand what the language and what the implication of this merge would mean to the project, right? And then so that would be just a simple code review, like in Gerrit you would vote, right? I don't know exactly what you can do in Git, if you can set it up so that 2 needs to approve it, or what the thing is. I think just having 1 approving it is usually not a good idea, because you know, people get lazy, and yeah, it's always good to have 2, I think.
Right. So what you've described, in fact, is not really a review process, but a process for getting your changes into a GitHub repo, no matter what they are.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, those changes could be big or small, and if we think that everything that we put back into the repo, we merge into the repo is an issue, that's great. You know, that would be, you know, one way of looking at it, and that's consistent. But how you arrive at this point is either by proposing something new or creating, you know, proposing a change to something. And then I guess my question to you is, do you see proposing a change up front and getting consensus that that change is good?
No, I mean, you would create a Git issue, right? For something you want to get in, and we need to discuss what type of Git issues would just be allowed not to be reviewed completely, right? That's open for discussion. But once you picked up the issue, then we need to decide what is the process to get stuff in, because
okay, and this is what you're suggesting here is the process.
this is what I'm suggesting.
Right.
There's a plan B here, or there is a second track, and that's that the developer forks the repository and implement the feature in his fork, and then raise the PR. The problem I have with that is that then that would not allow for collaboration really across the project. So,
but that could be a
Quick question.
legitimate way of building something big, right? Or experimental.
yeah.
I,
Good.
I have
Go
a
ahead.
question.
Yeah.
Why is this not supporting collaboration? Because as soon as you create the PR, you will see also where this comes from. I'm definitely more.
I'm saying before the PR is created, because you can create a feature branch and work on that for 2 weeks, right? And only after that you will raise the PR. The feature branch, if you don't fork it on your own, the feature branch is visible to anybody that has a Git clone, and just do a Git pull, right?
Well,
Yes, but do you want to track like on branch level that the developer is checking, okay, who creates a new branch? I would propose that as soon as you want to get some feedback, even if you create a feature branch with a work in progress in the beginning, so that people immediately know, okay, this is definitely work in progress. But for me, like looking into some other codes is really when the PR is there. Doesn't matter if it lives inside of the same, if it's a branch or if it's a fork there. And so as soon as the developer creates a branch, as soon as the developer creates a PR, someone can take a look at it. And when someone forks it and do it on his own, yes, he has a risk that after 2 weeks, he's coming up with a really big change and people will decline it and he invested 2 weeks for nothing.
Yeah, but it's also that, let's say I have an engineer at HPE and he creates a feature branch and we want to work on a new service that perhaps engineers from Intel are also sort of interested in. So they clone and they are working in the same feature branch, and if as they keep doing push, it will be visible for the other guy as well if he's pulling, right? If you do your own fork, it will be more difficult to work across companies. I think we can accept both of these approaches. It's not the important thing is if you do create all these feature branches, that you delete them after merge. Otherwise, you have thousands of branches.
Can I maybe reduce this down in terms of complexity, right? I think we need to tease apart how development is done on a particular issue versus how those changes get it back into the code base, right? Into the repo itself. And so you've proposed two options for development. You know, one is to create a branch, the other one is to create a clone, and there may be pros and cons for each one, but companies may choose depending on, you know, how much collaboration they want, or, you know, whether or not, you know, the change is so big that it's worth, you know, kind of cloning the whole thing. Who knows, right? The common sense will prevail. Let's put it that way. What's important here is not, you know, how the development is done necessarily, but the process by which new code gets into the repo. And that's what we need to understand, right?
Yeah.
And in my experience with open source is that, you know, companies may work on extensions or additions or new features or changes or whatnot ahead of time. And when they're ready, you know, and they've done all the work, then they can basically say, we would like to put these changes back. Right?
No, that's not how we plan on working, and we are the only code in the project right now. We are going to work in the project right now, and you will see commits every day, basically.
Okay, great.
And that would be commits into feature branches that some of them will not be good. Not until we raise the PR, you will see good code, and perhaps even then, raising the PR, CI/CD might crap out, and it will be rejected because of that.
Can we then create? Can we have different degrees of stabilities, right? Could we have a working branch or a working space where we make changes every day, which is completely unstable, but they
No,
also
that's how CI/CD works, right?
right.
You have a main branch that we used to call master, but I think that is changing now. But it's the main branch. Whenever somebody clones from that, they will always get the latest stable release. You have a development branch. Whenever somebody clones from that, they will get something that has cleared all the tests. But it's cutting edge stuff. It might be, you know, alpha, beta, and then so whatever we approve to go into the development branch will obviously be, we'll have to clear all the unit tests, and we'll have to pass the manual code review. And then so development branch is where we create our releases from. And once we do a release, we just put like a tag down, and we merge it back to the master branch, and then we main branch. Sorry. That's what I've seen in the past. We can obviously make changes to this. It's not a big deal.
Okay, now that you've explained, you know, this in greater detail, it makes more sense to me. Okay.
Yeah.
So we have the golden branch, you know, the master, the main, whatever you want to call it, and then we have the development.
Yeah.
And potentially you can clone off of that and have, you know, in parallel can do other things as well. Everything is done in parallel is what you're saying.
Yeah, I'm saying if the development branch, if I pull from that or clone from it and something fails, we have done something wrong in our CI/CD process. Development branch should absolutely always work. And then, you know, then if you want to create a new feature, it's a separate feature branch, and the feature branch will only exist while you're developing the feature. And once the PR is merged back in, the feature branch will be deleted.
Right. And so the expectation is that at least in terms of development activities, you know, HP engineers would be working like mad on adding new functionality, and, you know, Intel could be adding new functionality. Other companies can as well. And really somebody needs to gate all those changes, make sure they're correct, and will not, you know, create any problems.
Yeah, but I think you're raising a lot of good points, Alex, and whoever talked earlier there.
Sebastian, I think.
Sebastian, sorry, Sebastian, for not remembering your name. I think if you want to raise some really big new features, it's probably healthy to have them reviewed prior to start working on them, because otherwise you waste a lot of time and it will never get in, right?
Yes, and we've gone through a lot of issues in other communities where companies sort of expected everything to just roll in, and others objected, and then there was an uncomfortable couple of weeks trying to figure out how to mitigate that. So I would say that, again, I think if we're going to create the end-to-end process for how we do development, you know, they're basically, you know, 3 scenarios. One, brand new work, you know, no one, you know, and I'm proposing something completely different and unique. 2, I'm proposing a major change to one of the existing GitHub repos. 3, I'm proposing a minor change, right?
Like a new feature, small feature
or whatever. I actually would argue that as an FYI, to send a message or to record somewhere on the wiki for everybody to see that, we're about to embark on this work, that would be, good sort of neighborly thing to do.
The other thing I was thinking though is that because I want this to scale as well, right?
Yeah.
So I think so. If I am a maintainer for repository A, for instance,
Right.
and I see there will be new Git issues created, and there could be Git issues for bugs. There could be Git issues for smaller features, but some of the smaller features might be large enough to be regarded as a major change. So how do we deal with that though?
Well, it could be both ways, right? I mean, if the maintainers are they're the gatekeepers, right? And so if they see that somebody's trying to sneak in a huge change that impacts other work that's being done, or makes a fundamental change to the behavior of what is of the code, then they could reject it and send it back for a bigger review. But it would be, the incentive for all developers would be to not end up in that situation.
Yeah, but I remember in the beginning of our discussions around the project, we were also talking about, I don't know what. Oh, we were talking about getting into that we could have new, bigger features being in a sandbox state and not part of a release until they were proven out to be stable enough or valuable enough. And I don't know if that's something we want to.
Well, so there's we can talk about feature stability. Or we need to develop a taxonomy that we can all common language that we can use, right? So if I am proposing a change, right, and that change includes brand new features that are completely unstable, maybe we mandate that it's a sandbox development environment, and it goes on until you meet a certain criteria in terms of, stability of the code, stability of the interfaces. I think we've discussed that. And then you get to start, thinking about merging that stuff in. If you were proposing, let's say tomorrow I go in and I say, you know what, I feel like completely change. This would not happen, so don't get excited. But let's say I go in and I say, I want to completely change all of the aggregation work or the eventing service or something like that. That's a big change. And, you could argue that it's not a sandbox because it changes existing code. But I would feel better if I put a proposal on the wiki for everybody to see, review, and comment. And if everyone agrees, again, we're consensus driven. If everyone agrees that that change is a good one, or that proposal is a good one, now I can go and act whichever way I need to. Do I just create a branch? Do I clone? Do I do whatever I need to do? Right?
No, I think that makes sense.
But if you are fixing 5 lines of code somewhere because somebody, made a mistake, that's something you just do. It's maintenance, right?
Yeah, and the bigger chunk, like for instance, we are getting ready to start implementing an update service, which is part of Redfish, right? And specifically, there is one function that has been implemented by most vendors. That's the simple update action. And obviously, that would be something that will be a proposal, right?
It could be, right? But again, one thing to realize is that if you look at it from the interface perspective, you're introducing a new set of RESTful APIs that are completely self-contained. They don't necessarily modify the behavior of other services that are in ODIM. If they're completely self-contained, saying FYI, we're introducing a new service, just like you said, that's goodness. But if it's self-contained, I don't know if we need to go through a lot of upfront review.
Yeah, it's just no. You're right. That's good. I guess there could be some discussions on what does the spec mean and what does it mean to implement according to this and some questions. But
You
I'm
know,
not sure
look,
that has to be solved by TSC. That can be solved by the individual developer.
well, and again, we're small enough right now where we
Mm.
should, you know, we should use the community channels we have to talk about the work we're doing. I don't think that's a big deal, right? So simply putting in the blog, we have a blog section. Simply putting in the blog that, you know, HP is about to start work on the update service. And, you know, if you feel like describing what you're doing and what you're implementing, you know, creating like a feature page or whatever, that could be useful. You know, then somebody can look at it and say, oh, this is what they're implementing first, second, third, if they're phasing something in. But then you do what you need to do. You know, unless somebody says, you know, hang on, this is going to blow me out of the water with my XYZ service, I think we would be okay with just, you know, kind of keeping everybody informed and then continuing.
So just to make some progress here, I guess what I think what I'm hearing is that we need to put more language around how the end-to-end process, how you get big things in, how you get smaller things in, and stuff like that. But in order for us to contribute, I guess we also seem to be agreeing that we need maintainers. So I think perhaps we need 2 maintainers per repository or something similar, and we might and that repository, if you look at that as a project, that they might take a decision that this project is so big and has so many different functional areas, so we will have maintainers by functional area, and we shouldn't really dictate how the project will deal with that. I think because it requires some level of understanding into the project to set that stuff up. But
yeah, I mean, as a starting point, that's probably okay in my opinion. I don't know what others think.
Do we need 2 maintainers, do you think, for every repository at least?
At least 2. I mean, in other projects, I've seen more than 2, and that allows people to go on vacation, do other things.
Right.
You know,
Quick question for understanding. Will it be like multiple repositories? Will it be one big repository? Because
yeah, that's a good question too.
Yeah.
Because what I know, if you have one big repository, potentially we need owners on different levels, like that we have it on a path level or something like this. But I'm not sure if GitHub is doing this out of the box. But yeah, first of all, the question is, do we have one or multiple repositories from the beginning?
Yeah, that's a good question. So what we are going to push up is going to go into one repository. But let's check with Jim here. Jim, are you still with us? Can we create multiple repositories under our Git space?
Hi, this is Lewis. Yes, you should be able to. You should be able to create multiple repositories.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there you go. I was going to say just go in there and just play with it. So I think if you go under.
And how do I need, because normally, so can anybody, so here's the deal, right, Luis, just practically, right, if we push our code now and we say we want to have 3 maintainers, these 3 should be allowed to merge pull requests, but the others should not. Is that practical? Can you do that in real life? I mean, how do we, I don't even know that
I have to double check. Yeah, I have to see how we set permissions there. I guess we need to play around with it a bit. It looks like you're not signed in. I think if you sign in, you're going to get some different menus. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, let me sign in.
Yeah, it's definitely possible. So I shared the link. You can have owner files, and I think this owner files then can only merge this repository. The only thing what I don't know is if this can only be set per repository or if it can be more granular. I think that needs to be investigated because I don't know what GitHub can do out of the box. I know there are other tools around where you can do it more granular, but then we potentially need to look into other tools as well. So but that's the question: how we want to structure. If we want big repository, multiple repositories, and
I think multiple,
how the code structure is in general.
we're going to push up this one, and we welcome anybody to participate. But then I'm thinking if AMI start working on a composer or something, they might want to push that into another repository. It's possible, at least. And that could be a separate project that comes in and say, hey, you know, we have this great orchestration function that's going to live in the ODIM project, and they managed to convince us that that is a great idea. Now they might want to have a separate repository. They might consume the APIs, but they might still live in a separate repository.
So one example of how this was set up in ONAP, for example, was by functional area, right? So each major functional area had its own repo. So in our case, one could argue that each service could have its own repo.
Yeah, but we can't, I mean, that's going to delay us 2-3 weeks, right? So we can move in that direction, Alex, definitely. Like, for instance, you have the session and the account service that could have one repo. But I want to do a clone. I mean, if I'm an end user, I want to be able to clone and build, right? And be up and running.
I'm not suggesting that's the way to go. I'm simply saying that's one way, right?
Yeah.
And you're right. It might take us a little more time to get going. And if time is of the essence, we could maybe not do that right away. But yeah, again, we're not talking about something big and huge with, you know, millions and millions and millions of lines of code. So I think we could probably.
How does having multiple repos affect the whole CI/CD build pipeline?
Yeah, that's a problem for us as well. But I think there might be separate CI/CD per repo, right? Because you have Git actions triggered when you raise a pull request for a certain repository, and it's part of the code, right? So whenever we upstream, the CI/CD will be live and going, and we're going to get to that, and we're running out of time. But what we need to do here on this process, I think we need to determine, and I think I hear 3 maintainers at least. And then I think the other thing is, Luis, I don't know if you can look at this. I can send you an email with questions, but how do we set up Git so that these maintainers will be the guys who can do the merge? That's a question. Then I can send you a separate email with that.
Yeah, I'm looking at permissions right now, and there are there's a settings tab. So can you go back to the GitHub? I want to see if you have the same menus as I do. So take a look where it says ODIM project, ODIM. Just, you have to go up one level. Go to the left.
Okay.
You go to the left, and yeah, just click exactly. So now, okay, yeah, you have different settings.
Yeah, because I'm not anything to this project, right? I could be you know, Joe Doe out there. I just have a GitHub account. So I don't know what to do here. I mean, when I log into our GitHub and I have full-blown permissions, I know how to set everything, but I think I have admin status there, so it's different, right?
Yes, it looks like I can get in there and make some changes. Let me just double check here.
Yeah.
Okay, I think I see it.
And then these 3 maintainers, I mean, we are happy to share that work across other companies, but whoever signs up needs to sort of be prepared to spin up on the code as well as you know, work being a maintainer then.
Can I make a suggestion on that front? And we can, again, write it down and float it for everybody's approval. I think to start with, since you guys know the code best, I would argue that at least two of the maintainers should come from HP. As everybody learns where everything is and how it works, then we can offload that burden. We can offload that burden. We can even do it every year or every 6 months or whatever, every release. We can change out the maintainers so that, you know, it's not a huge burden to them. But in general, I think to start with, it pays to have somebody who understands everything.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, go ahead.
Fully agree, because otherwise, if you put someone who has no experience with the code I think it will be hard for them to get on speed and review it. So I think, at least for the beginning, someone who is really familiar with the code and can also advise in a direction and say, no, you understand the code wrong potentially. And then we see who's picking up more and more on specific areas, and then others can jump in and support, or getting maintainers as well, so that we get more maintainers on it.
Yeah, and I think I agree with you, Sebastian. And I like what Alex said. Like, you know, we could have like every 6 months or so, we could revisit and perhaps propose and vote in TSC or whatever for new maintainers. And that would make perfect sense, because there could be a maintainer that actually switched out to a new company and he becomes very inactive, and we need to get rid of him, right? So, yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so we should probably write that down, Bob, that we want to have the maintainers sitting for, do you guys like a year or 6 months?
Well, let's do this. Instead of putting it in the minutes, can we have another version of this sort of, you know, how do you develop an ODIM proposal?
Okay, yeah, good. But I do want it ratified to the point where, and this is what becomes tricky. Yes, I took a note that we need to go back and put some more meat on this, and I'll work with that, on that. But if we get 3 maintenance, at least I can look at who two will come from HPE, and then we can upstream the code. The only question I have is about the issues then, right? Because right now we are working and we need to get issues in and new features, and update service is one who is pretty big. There is also the aggregation service that is in the code right now, was a pre-DMTF release aggregation service. So and after it went through DMTF, aggregation service was slightly changed. So the feature there is to align it to the spec. There are some changes that is needed. So we need to understand how we can create those Git issues, and if it needs to go through TSC to get them in there, and or not, and what the process is there, right?
Why don't we do this? Why don't we have a running list of projects, or a running list of you know, work items, that, you know, whatever you want to call them, right? Significant ones will need to kind of get an inception review, and then, you know, the maintainers would focus on the commit, you know, kind of on the commit review, like the commitment once the project goes back in. For small things, we just add them into that list, and, you know, there's a way to mark their status and say, you know, small change, you know, bug fixes, whatever. But at least then we have like a permanent log of all the changes we've made. It's and I understand that you can do it all in GitHub, but, you know, again, for visibility externally and for attracting others, you know, the wiki is a good place to do this.
Yep.
So, and we can even point to the GitHub, to the Git issue from the wiki, right? And and not have to, you know, duplicate the information.
Okay.
Quick question from my side regarding the wiki. Does it has a proper review process? So otherwise, what I know from other projects is that you have either a dedicated repository or a folder inside your main repository called proposals, and then people are creating a markdown file and creating a PR with this markdown file, and so then others can comment it on this, and so, you know, as long as it's not merged, it's definitely not approved. I'm not sure how capable.
Well, and what we did on Confluence and other places is basically created a list of projects and the status, whether or not they were approved, and then a link to a Jira story describing what the project was. Since we don't have Jira, we can create a link to a
Git issue.
Yes, instead. But that allows you to have full, you know, power of Confluence when it comes to creating, you know, Glyphy diagrams, you know, like all these proposals on the wiki for big things, or simply just a pointer to an issue for small things.
So if, just so I understand the developers' day-to-day work here, right? So if we push the code and we create a proposal for. I think the update service is fairly big, even though it's well defined by the MTF. So it should be an easy thing to approve by TSC. We take that in front of TSC, and then we need to make changes to the aggregation service. I don't know that we need to take that in front of TSC, but at least we should have that option, and we should consider it. But could the developers still start working on this in their either forked repositories feature branch or in a
Yeah,
published
because
feature branch?
again, even so, look, they can do whatever they want as far
Yeah.
as I'm concerned, because the gating factor is going to be whether or not a maintainer is going to allow their changes back in.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
if they want to run ahead and start working on something, by all means.
Yeah, I don't want to stop them. That's the thing, right?
No. I understand exactly where you were going. And what
Yeah.
I'm saying is, like, let them do what they want to do. It's really going to be up to the maintainers and to the TSC to decide what the disposition of that work is going to be. It could be throwaway on, I don't expect it to be, but it might, it's, conceivably. But most likely, it'll just get a committer, a maintainer approval in the end and a blessing to do what needs to be done.
Yeah. Okay, good. So then this is fairly okay what we see on this web page. The problem is that we need to add more information around the bigger items and how they need to go and create some proposal on the wiki, right?
Yeah, I kind of started, doing a little flow chart and
Okay, cool.
we're talking, and I kind of have three trajectories there, three threads, right? One is brand new work, significant change, minor change, and we can figure out, agree on what the steps are, but I don't want it to be like 50 steps. Let's make it small enough and light enough.
Yeah. So then if we look at, because that allows us to push the code up. So, and the CI/CD process is actually fairly straightforward, what we have been using just to test on Git, right? It's triggered by Git actions. So whenever somebody is raising a pull request, a Git action will go out, and then we have basically two different workflows, and they are running in parallel. And it's fairly detailed here what happens. I mean, we install some Go package. But what it really comes down to is that you will have some 6, 7, or 8 containers running, and we will execute all the unit tests on those. And then if it clears, then the maintainers can start reviewing the code. But if it doesn't clear, the PR will be rejected, and the maintainer will have to go and figure out what he did wrong. Oh, sorry, not the maintainer, the developer, right?
Right.
So it's fairly straightforward, this one. You can look at this, and what is, obviously we have these containers already in the code, and that's what we're using. So if you say, oh, we shouldn't have the Kafka container, that will be a problem right now. I mean, long term, we're willing to do anything, obviously, but the containers that are being built here, that's part of the whole build environment. So, but that's just using Git actions that is already there for us. Another thing I think would be for companies then to see if they are using, let's say Intel would take this and release a product, then perhaps you also want to test some stuff downstream. For instance, in our case, if somebody is raising a pull request, we want to test it on real servers, and so we are going to have a Git action that is also triggering our downstream CI/CD. But what we are going to return okay immediately, because we don't want any problems on our side to hold up the project.
So
we want to be notified.
I think this is a discussion in its own right, and we haven't fully asked ourselves, what is the actual deliverable from the community going to look like? Yeah. And there are lots of answers there, and depending on what they are, we may need to do system level testing and hardening testing.
Yeah.
And if we choose to go that route, my expectation is that there would be some shared lab resources provided.
Oh yeah. We got an email about that. Did you see that from OPNFV? We got an email by Jim Baker.
Yeah, but they're basically, I interpreted that email more in terms of they're doing a whole bunch of work
Yeah.
on standardized testing and whatnot. And, they want to collaborate, which is good. But, in terms of physical lab space, we wouldn't be doing it there. We would still need to have our own.
Yeah, I know, I agree. But is it good because
And
we
I
are out of
think-
time? So go ahead.
Yeah, I think one thing we also need to look into is like, especially if you do testing, who can start this test. For example, if you're running some tests on real hardware, potentially you only want to allow this as trusted developers and not the test is started and running when an external contributor is creating a PR, so that you before have a approval step and say, okay, now the test can run, because otherwise it can run, or they can sneak in unsecured code in your test environment.
No, I agree. But for this purpose of this meeting, are you guys okay with us using this unit test that we have tested out here?
Well, to start with, why wouldn't we, right?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I just want to hear a yes, and then we can change this. If we decide that this doesn't work for us, we can change it to something else, right?
I think we can jumpstart what you want to do, right? Because you guys have some constraints as well. I'm pretty sure that it is driving this momentum here. So let's just kind of get this jump started. We can always adjust as we go. As long as you guys are open to that, then life is okay.
Absolutely. And we would harden the code downstream as well before we release. And when we do that, we will obviously file code corrections and stuff.
And I would imagine that anybody who's building a distro of this, and we need to decide what that even means, because in my mind, I'm not even sure what the granularity of the deliverables would be yet. I have some opinions, but I don't think we've all agreed. Whatever it is, if Intel builds its own, I would expect us to do our own full range of tests that we do on the software.
Yeah. I didn't, so we're running out of time, but I didn't see a meeting for next week. Do you guys have that in your calendar? We are running this every week.
I'm expecting a meeting every week.
Should be a recurring meeting.
It should be a recurring meeting. Double check, because I did, it's every week.
Okay.
Yeah, I have it in the calendar.
That one.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, very good.
Okay, yeah, so perhaps because I'm traveling next week. I'm going to try to make this meeting next week anyhow, but I'll just look for that then.
My God, you're getting on a plane?
I know.
Scary.
Hey, I know we're going out of time, but I had a couple of questions. Is it okay if we stay just a few minutes over?
Sure.
All right, thank you. So I'm sorry if this was already discussed, but I was purposely late for the call to make sure that you can get into the call and record it without me. So that's why I was purposely
seemed to come
late.
up automatically. We were wondering how the recording started without us. So
yeah, it's set that way. Yeah, so that's good. Did the team decide to limit the TSC to 5 members, or is it going to remain open for other folks to join?
I think we're going to keep it open for a little bit. I would suggest that there are a few other companies who are asking serious questions, and I think doing their due diligence. And so we should, they would be good to be part of the core.
Absolutely, and it's also a great way to grow recruiting and get people, get companies involved.
We just need to, we just need to get going. So we have a minimum. We have 5 now, so we can ratify.
That's critical mass, and this way we can.
And we have started reaching out to some other organization, standard bodies, other projects, to see if we can go and present to those guys.
Yes.
Because I think it's important to hit them from all directions. Yeah.
Was there discussion on voting for a TSC chair and the sort of the mechanisms for doing that?
Question.
No,
we didn't do that.
So here's I recommend. There are 5 on the chair so far. What you can do is create a table for nominees for chair and just put it right there on the wiki. And then we can use this thing called, you've probably seen this before, I'm sure, the Condorcet Internet Voting Service, which I can set up and run a poll. And then everybody, and it's very open, right? So everybody can vote for the person from that nominee table for who they would, like to vote for the chair. And then that will come up, and then and that's one way of doing it. Or we can use chat, which is a little more, informal. But totally.
We have 1 chair or 2 chairs. I mean,
a chair and a vice chair. You can have a vice chair too.
Yeah,
thinking
sure.
vacations. And,
I honestly feel like, well, yeah, I agree that this is all good. But given the size so far, I don't think
he's not going to have a really
we're not
outstanding
going
role.
to do it. Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
think we need to be terribly formal. We're just a bunch of like-minded companies at this point.
Yeah.
I agree,
Yeah.
Louis, that eventually, if we grow the TSC to a significant size, yes, we would need to do that. But you know, I was kind of happy that Bob was doing all the heavy lifting. And also, since this is not just a TSC meeting, but we call it a community meeting, we're talking about TSC issues mostly for now, but there may be other things. Maybe for now we just kind of rotate the chairmanship, or you know, somebody who leads the meetings. We can also rotate that responsibility so that it's not.
So if you're proposing we don't have a chair initially until we grow bigger, I think I'm with you there, Alex. No issues.
Yeah, I mean, I think we can keep it somewhat informal.
Yeah.
We all want this community to take off, so I think we can start with that. If we
I
get
agree,
to
I think.
12 people or whatever, then you know, next time around, you know, there's also a TSC period, right, Louis? It's not just forever, right? So you know, there are re-elections or whatever, and we can choose the second round to be more organized.
Sure. And then once we actually have, you know, active contributors and we have code and, you know, things are happening as far as the code, then we can get to a more formal, you know, TSC based on contribution, right? Like
Right, we can do that. Yes. For now, we're
Yeah.
saying for the first few releases, it's an appointed kind of
Sure.
system based on appointments by companies. But after that initial period expires, then we can look at whatever everybody else does.
Sure.
Directionally, we
that's,
should align with the process that we use in OPNFE and ONAP and you know, other communities that you guys drive, just because it's more consistent. It's easier than
Right.
to go into an umbrella or to create a new one. The rules would be the same.
That sounds good. But Bob, I know you're taking notes. Maybe just, you know, jot some of that down, that decision around the TSC chair and the size, just so it's recorded there. One more thing, and then I'll let folks go, but I want to go back to GitHub. So I can set permissions. So 2 questions. Number 1, members. I'm happy to scrub the mailing list and put every member, make sure that they are a team, they're part of the team or the sharing of the GitHub. I just want to make sure everybody's, I mean, I think that's the right thing to do. Just make sure that everyone's, you know, not of agreement that that's the thing to do.
So I didn't get that quite. Did you want to, what did the GitHub have to do with the mailing list? Sorry.
Oh, just to make sure that everybody's sort of on the, because right now the people, I'm not certain if anyone on this call can actually do anything. Can you edit anything in GitHub? I know you should be able to do the wiki.
Well, I mean, yeah, that's what we need to get on, because practically we need to be able to push up our code, right?
Yes.
Then secondly, I think we should allow anybody to create feature branches and so on and so forth. So branch creation is fine, but to do pull request mergers, as to identify the maintainers, we would assign that permissions to them to do that, right?
Okay, so then that leads me to my second one. Then, who from this call here wants to be set up as an admin? Because right now I'm the only one.
I think I want to be an admin, and I don't.
Jonas, yes.
I don't mind if everybody on this call is an admin. More practically, I think we would contribute code immediately, so that's necessary for me, and I think AMI will do it soon here. But I don't have a problem with everybody in TSC being an admin, right?
Sure. Let me just see who's on this call. I have to take a quick capture of, because Zoom sort of is not that good. Let me just give me a second to grab. I'm happy to put everyone I see. There's 9 folks right now as an admin. So just give me a moment to grab it.
But as an admin, I guess we shouldn't. Well, just ask people not to nuke the Git history, anything like that. Just,
Yes, yeah, please.
I'm not
Okay.
touching anything.
All right, I snapped a picture of everyone on this call right now, so everyone who's here will become an admin, hopefully by the end of the day, unless something gets some kind of a hiccup.
okay,
you'll
good.
be
Then
an
we
admin on
can.
that. Yeah.
Quick question. I would recommend, because I think GitHub, you need to know the GitHub users. Either we create a quick wiki page, or send the GitHub user either here or per the mailing list, because otherwise it could be hard to get every user's name.
Absolutely, I have a very strange GitHub username. So we can put it in the chat if you want, and you're gonna say that, right?
Yeah, that's probably a good idea. Why don't everybody do that? This way it'll be much better.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
I see. Now I see.
Because
I tell you what, when I do this though, let's just see here. People they're looking for an email. Oh, username, full name, or email. So yeah.
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 Okay, GitHub.
I see a couple coming in. Thank you for that.
Yeah, this username is actually the email. So I'm. Yeah, you're right. Good point.
Yeah, I was saying invite to project. Yeah, and then yeah, you can do anyway, whatever you send me.
Jonas. So here
Yeah, but potentially not everyone has it corporate as a GitHub email. For example, me.
Yeah.
I'll use emails over Groups.io also, and hopefully that comes through. Okay, it ended with Jonas. Anyone else want to? There we go. Oh, anyone else want to drop it in there? Okay, thank you. I have yours, Jose. Any more before I save it? Going once,
Sorry,
going twice.
I had to take that call. What are we doing here?
Dropping your
Oh,
GitHub name in the chat.
GitHub.
Oh, okay,
username.
yeah, we're not using the LF credentials, I guess.
Well, it might but not be the same as in GitHub, right?
Yeah, it might be not
you're right.
yeah.
Okay, yeah, let me do this.
Okay, thank you. I got that. Stefano, let anyone else going once, going. Oh, it's still coming in. Very good. Because I'm jumping the gun here. All right, I think we're good now. We ended with Alex is the last one. Anyone else? Save chat. Okay, I got it. All right, let me go ahead and play around with that.
Luis, will be that happen today? Do you think, or because I was hoping I could have the engineers push the code tomorrow morning. They need a few days after they push the code to change, because in the Golang you refer to repositories by referring to their GitHub code, so they need to make some changes in the code as well. So. Okay.
Yeah, I'm actually going to work on it right now, so I want to get this going and get it. Yeah. So
cool.
if I have any snags, I'll email the team.
Yeah, perfect. I'm on Slack as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, great.
Perfect. Yeah, I'll find you on there. Yep. Very good.
Okay, guys. Thank you very much.
Okay, Louis, if how do I can just stop the recording now?
Yeah. Well, I think if we end it, it'll stop automatically.
It will automatically. Will it automatically save the chat then?
I saved it manually.
Manually. Okay. All right.
Yeah, but I think I think the chat is automatically set to save, but I don't trust that one so much.
Yeah, I'm just not sure, so that's why I was asking whether we.
But I have the chat. I'll shoot it. It'll be a text file. I'll shoot it over to you.
Yep. Very good. All right. Very good. Thanks everyone for staying on a little bit longer.
Thanks, guys.
Great discussion today.
Thank you all. Yep.
And please look at my minutes once I publish the page and help me tweak anything.
Sure.
Thank you.
Will do. Thanks.
Yeah, Jonas, I'll ping you later today. I'm gonna set up that initial flow and see if you agree with it, and then I'll ping you on Slack. I think he left.
He's gone. Yeah.
All right, bye.
Bye, Alex. Bye all.
Bye.